That's a good picture. Okay.
As you see, this was presented in Bose in 2018 in summer school.
I'm sure that the content is still the same. So good.
So it can help us. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I am very happy to be back here. And over lunch, when I was talking with Benjamin, I counted, this is my 8th time to Bose. This is the 4th time we come as groups. The first time also I came with a group, but I was not organizer. I was part of the delegation for dialogue with WC. So this has become part of our routine, that we feel that every year we should come here and see our friends, and I feel we have a kind of joint mission to work for promoting mutual understanding and unity among believers. So I am very happy to be here with you, and my presentation about Islam is going to give you some ideas about historical background of Islam, some statistics, something about doctrines, some practices, but then I will focus more on Islamic ethics. So as you may know, Islam is the fastest growing religion. It is said it is the fastest growing religion. Of course, I personally don't know whether it is a good thing or bad thing. So, because I think in religion we should not be after quantity or statistics. The main thing is quality. So I just say this as a fact, not as something that I am necessarily very pleased. The main thing is that the number of those who truly follow God should increase. It's the second largest religion. So after Christianity, Islam is the second largest religion. Maybe about 25% of the world population adhere to Islam. Some people think that Muslims live mainly in Arab countries, and some people think most of Muslims are Arabs. But this is not the case. Actually, Muslims exist in 208 countries, and a small part of it is in Arab countries. About 85% of the Muslims live outside the Arab world. The majority of Muslims live to the east of the borders of Iran. So if you go Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia, India, majority of Muslims actually live in that part. Here you see some statistics about different religions in the world. So Christianity is constituting 2.3 billion. Of course, this is 2015. Now maybe the percentage has changed, but this is according to Pew in 2015. And Muslims about 1.8 billion. Unfortunately, the number of atheists or people who don't associate to any religion is increasing, and this is not very happy thing. So as you see, we will have discussion about Muslim-Christian relations by Sister Shahnaz, but if just Muslims and Christians work together and have unity, so means already most of the population of the world, more than half population of the world, would be united. So Muslim-Christian relation is not only important for them, it's important for the whole world. And if Muslims and Christians can give a joint testimony to God, I think many people would be taking it more seriously than each of us separately called towards God. If they see our faith in God has united us, I think this will be more attractive. As you know, we have different denominations in Islam. And this can be introduced in different ways. Sometimes, based on their theology, they are divided. Sometimes, based on their jurisprudence, they are divided. For example, based on theology, we have many groups. To make it very simple, you can say, Shia, Sunni, or, sometimes, they say, also other groups. But most of the time, they classify them according to their school of jurisprudence. Because, very important part of Muslim life is how we pray, how we fast, how we perform pilgrimage to Mecca, how we give our taxes, family law, all these things. Therefore, based on where you believe that authority lies and which major jurist you follow, then you can have different Muslim groups. So, for example, we have the Shia that theologically they follow certain school, but also from jurisprudential perspective, they have a special jurisprudence. And we don't know exact statistics, so it's estimated to be something from 10% to 15%, even some people say 20%, but I think maybe it's 10 to 15% of the Muslim population are Shia. And then a majority are non-Shia, Sunni, but when it comes to jurisprudence, some are Hanafis. So they follow Abu Hanifa as their main jurist. And you can find Hanafis mostly in Egypt, in Lebanon. So many Sunnis in Lebanon are Hanafi. Of course, in Lebanon we have Shia as well, and Shia is the largest minority in Lebanon, but they are minority. There is no majority in Lebanon. Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Turkey. Malikis, they are mostly in Morocco and Sudan. Shafi'is, mostly in Syria, Yemen, Oman, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Kuwait. And also they coexist with other schools in Jordan and Egypt. And Hanbalis, they are officially practiced in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And Wahhabi movement comes from this background of Hanbali jurisprudence. Now, what are the major sources for understanding Islam? All Muslims share belief in the Quran. Today we are going to have a presentation on the Quran and the Bible, so we will talk about it more in that presentation, and I will explain the way Muslims regard the Quran. So for anything, whether it is about doctrines, whether it's about morals, whether it's for jurisprudence, for economy, for politics, family life, our main source is the Quran. And this is common among all Muslims, although they may have different interpretations but the book is the same. There is a rumor, it's maybe good, some people say Shia have different Quran. Yes, unfortunately, even today, some people say this. So, some years back, we arranged some groups of Sunni scholars visit Iran from UK. So, the first delegation when they went, at the beginning, they had some hesitations, and at the end they were very happy. They said this was big change for us. One of them, our friends, said that everywhere we were going, he was taking his time and checking the Quran, every mosque, every place, if they have different Quran. And also he had made condition that I don't join your prayer. I will say my own prayer. But towards the end of the trip, then he was, very normal. And therefore I very much believe in the power of personal encounter. It's very important that, you have eye-to-eye contact and, you meet people, because then you will realize that they are also like us. They are not, strangers. So, there is the same Quran all over the world. We don't have any specific Quran. Yes, there are different, what we call qira'ah, different recitations of the Quran, but this is not making the Quran different. So the same Quran, and then the Sunnah, which is the teachings of the Prophet. It can be words of the Prophet, it can be actions or deeds of the Prophet, and it can be what we call taqrir, which is tacit approval. What we mean by taqrir is that if something is proved that was practiced in front of the Prophet, and the Prophet didn't object, we say then it means that it was okay. Because the Prophet should not feel shy or embarrassed to say, this is wrong. So anything which was done in the presence of the Prophet and he didn't object, then that is accepted. So all Muslims give complete authority to the Prophet, and they believe that his teachings are explanations of the Quran, because the Quran itself gives this task of explanation to the Prophet, and the Prophet was a teacher of the Quran. There is a difference here between Sunni and Shia, because we believe that after the Prophet there were godly chosen leaders, imams. Imam in this sense is different from imam of mosque. So we say this person is imam of this mosque, imam of maybe Geneva or London. Here imam means divinely appointed leader, which are only 12. And these are the people that are immaculate, infallible, and they have the highest knowledge about Islam and highest spirituality. And we believe that this position with these conditions can only be decided by God. So we believe that after the Prophet, his successor was Imam Ali, his cousin, his son-in-law, and the one who was brought up also in the house of the Prophet. Our Sunni brothers and sisters, they say that the Prophet passed away without introducing on behalf of God who is going to lead the community. We say he actually introduced on many occasions, but they say he left without talking about this. Then what happened was, then when the Prophet just passed away and still his family were busy with preparing for the funeral, some people got together in a place called Saqifa of Bani Sa'ida, and they wanted to make one person among Ansar, the Muslims in Medina, as the successor. Then some people from Mecca realized, they went and they stopped, and then they gave allegiance to the first caliph. So now we have two narrations or two currents in Islam. And unlike, for example, Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, mechanism, that despite the the split, you share several centuries. Yeah, at the beginning you were together, but this issue of Shia Sunni goes back to the very beginning of Islam. So we have always had this understanding. Even we believe the roots go back to the life of the Prophet, and soon after the demise of the Prophet, the difference emerged. So for us, the teachings of the infallible Imams is also authority, because we believe they are infallible and they are inspired by God. For Sunni brothers, they have high regard for the family of the Prophet, because by the teachings of the Quran, every Muslim has to love the household of the Prophet, and is a requirement of faith. So they love the household of the Prophet. Maybe some of them, I personally say, they love them more than I love them, because many Sunnis are very good in loving Ahlul Bayt. But the thing is that they didn't give that kind of scientific authority to them. They love them, but they follow other people. We say, you love them and follow them. So this is a difference here. But they include, all the companions of the Prophet. So this is very technical discussion. We can discuss if there are questions. Then reason, intellect. For some Muslims, intellect is not a source. But for the Shia and some other Muslims, reason or intellect is a source. Some people say we need reason just to bring us to religion, but afterwards we don't need reason. I remember many years ago, about maybe 20 years ago, one person in London said, there are some people who are trained in a Muslim country, and they come to our office and they challenge us as Shia. They ask us questions, etc. Can you talk to this, the head of them? I said, I don't think these kind of discussions are productive. If someone wants to debate and prove that you are wrong, normally it's not productive. It's different from dialogue and But he said, please. I said, okay. So we met in his house, and he said, where is this mentioned in the Quran that Imam Ali is the first Imam? You say Imam Ali was the first Imam. Where is this mentioned? Where is his name mentioned in the Quran? So I said, I will refer to some verses of the Quran later. But I have a question for you. If you meet the Prophet today, and the Prophet said, after me, Ali is my successor, do you accept or you ask for a Quranic reference? He said, you are using aql. You are using reason. So I said, okay, what is wrong? I said, first we have to clarify our methodology. Can you say to the Prophet, I don't accept what you say because it's not mentioned in the Quran? So he was, saying you are using aql. And for us, if someone says you are using aql, it is a credit, that I'm using my intellect. Because the Quran blames people who don't use their intellect, but he was telling me you are using aql. And then this reason can help us to come to religion. We believe that there are many claims. You cannot accept them by gambling or throwing lots. You have to examine them. How can you examine a religious claim? If someone says I am a prophet, How can you examine? You need to use your intellect. You cannot use the text of the revelation that he claims it's from God without using intellect. So you need to look into the miracles or text, whatever, using your intellect. And when you come to the point that you say, okay, this can only be from God, no human being can bring such a message, or no one can bring such a miracle. This is one step by intellect towards religion, and then inside religion, again, we need to use intellect. Because unfortunately, in all religious traditions, we have had this problem that people, when they refer to the scriptures, some people don't use reason. Therefore, they come up with, very strange interpretations that sometimes can be very, violent, for example. One problem. Of course, there are other problems when you don't use a rational methodology in understanding the scriptures. So, one scholar has very good analogy. He says, for some people, reason is like a torch. You use this torch to find the way towards religion and inside religion. For some people, reason is just a key. You open the door of religion and get into religion, but you don't need the key anymore. They leave the key at the door. So some people say, reason just at the door. We don't need reason anymore. We have something better, which is revelation. Of course, we believe revelation is better, but we believe even understanding revelation needs reason. You have to be rational. Some people say reason is a scale by which you measure everything, and the standard by which you weigh everything. Anything which is not understandable by reason, you reject. There are three analogies. Be a torch that use it all the time. A key that you just open the door and leave it there. Or a standard that you have to impose it on every religious thing. So we believe only the first is correct. It's not just the key, and it's not also a standard that we say anything that reason cannot understand is wrong. For example, if you ask the best philosopher of the world, who has trained his reason very well, he masters logic, philosophy, use your reason and describe the taste of ice cream. You cannot describe the taste of ice cream by reason. Or use your reason and tell me how Geneva looks without going there and without watching and asking people. Just use your reason and philosophical arguments and explain Geneva. He cannot. This doesn't mean that this is irrational. Taste of ice cream can be understood by perception. So there are things that, for example, many things about resurrection, the hereafter, our reason cannot judge. Yes, we don't have anything against reason, but we have many things above or next to reason. So revelation is above and perception is next to reason. And also consensus, for some Muslims, consensus by itself is a proof. For the Shia, consensus is not a proof, unless an infallible is inside. So we believe all people of the world, or all Muslims, can agree on an error. No problem. We have had many things in the history that all human beings thought one way, and then later science, proved that it was wrong. So for the Shia, consensus by itself is not a proof, but when it is involving an infallible opinion, then that's different. So this is about the sources. Then some of the major doctrines. We normally say that there are 3 principles of religion and 5 principles of denomination. So for Muslims, especially for the Shia, there is great emphasis on these 5: the unity of God, divine justice, prophethood, imamate, and resurrection. All prophets and messengers, according to the Quran, highlighted unity of God, prophethood, and resurrection. So any prophet was asking people to believe in one God and in the hereafter, and was offering teaching through revelation. Therefore, we think this is common among all Abrahamic faith. But historically, in the Muslim nation, because there were some controversies, so the Shia also added divine justice and imamate as principles in order to distinguish their ideal, and theology from other schools. Not that other Muslims don't believe in divine justice. No, every Muslim believes in divine justice, but the way they understand it is different. In Christianity, Judaism, we have this issue of divine command theory. So some people say that something is good because God has said this is good, or God has said to do this. When God commands something, it's good. So God says you should be trustworthy, you should be honest. They say this is good. But God could have said another way. God could have said honesty is bad, and then honesty becomes bad. So they think in this way we can safeguard authority of God. But we don't believe in this way. We say when God says something is good, it is objectively good. It's not that, arbitrarily God says, do this, don't do that. Everything is based on realities and facts. So some people say God is just because this is the way they define justice. But we say God is just because we have objective understanding of justice. And we believe that God is not saying anything arbitrarily. God's words and deeds are all based on real interests. Anyway, so unity of God is a very important principle for us, and actually is the principle of principles. So everything goes back to unity of God. Then divine justice, which leads to social justice. We believe God is just and He wants us to be just. So it's not something just in air, God is just. This is easily translated into social justice. And prophethood, we believe that it's not mentioned in the Quran, but according to some hadith, that there were 124,000 prophets. Okay, my time is finishing. There were 124,000 prophets in the course of history. These were the people that were pious, pure, and God revealed to them. But it's not that every prophet had a book. Yeah? We have another concept, and that is messenger. Of course, some people may, not be careful in translation, but we try to be careful. We use prophet for Nabi and messenger for Rasul or apostle. So there were 313 messengers out of 124,000 prophets. Messengers had a message from God that they had to deliver. But prophets many times didn't have any message. They were preaching message which was given to a messenger. Okay? We believe that God dispatched messengers to all nations. We don't know many of them. We know some of them only. Most of the prophets and messengers we don't know. But the Quran says لَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا. We have dispatched messengers to all nations, all continents. Wherever humanity existed, God has sent messengers. Yeah, yes, sure. And as I said, only some of them had books, not all of them. I would like to mention a joke. It's good for this time. So, a person claimed that I am a prophet. So they asked him, where is your book? And he didn't know to say that, I am Nabi, not Rasul. so he had a challenge. So that, where is your book? He said, I give you handouts. So this line of prophecy or prophethood in 5 people becomes most outstanding. So 124,000 prophets. Among them, 313 are apostles or messengers. Among 313, 5 are called ulul azm, those who had great determination. So for Muslims, these 5 are at the top, select after select. And that is Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Prophet Muhammad. So Jesus for Muslims is very a special prophet, because he's a prophet, he's a messenger, and he is one of the 5 top messengers. Plus the Quran has many things about Jesus. I mentioned something about some practices. It seems we don't have time for the part about ethical teachings. We believe that prayer existed in all religions. All the prophets asked people to pray. And actually prayer is a need inside every human being. For example, we have that when Jesus was born, one of the things he mentioned as a baby was Awsani bis salati wa zakati ma dumtu hayya. God has asked me to pray and give alms as long as I am alive. We have prayer of Lady Mary. We have prayer of all the prophets. So prayer was always there, but the forms and methods of prayer can be different. So we have 5 prayers every day, which are obligatory. One is in the early morning at the time of dawn. One is midday. One is for afternoon. One when sun sets, and one after that. So we can say these 5 separately, or we can say the one for the noon and afternoon together, and the one for sunset and after that together. So normally Shia, when they go to the mosque, they go 3 times of the day. But Sunnis, they go 5 times a day to the mosque. So prayer is very important part of our life, and we have also recommended prayers. Fasting in the months of Ramadan, which we will soon, witness, God willing, in about 2 weeks. So every person who is healthy and has no problem and is not traveling with certain conditions should fast from dawn to the sunset. You don't eat, you don't drink, and certain things. Then pilgrimage to Mecca once upon your life, if you are well and capable, you go for pilgrimage. Giving alms, we have different types. We have zakat, we have khums, we have voluntary sadaqat or donations. So what obligatory? One is also a struggle for the sake of God. Jihad. Jihad is not militant necessarily. Jihad can be spiritual, can be educational, can be medical. Anything that you have to do to bring some positive change to the world. this has, you know, lots of discussion. Enjoining the good, prohibiting the bad. We cannot be indifferent if bad is happening, and we have to be voices for good. Okay, I think I stop here, and then after listening to Simone, there is time we can have some questions and answers. I didn't do justice, I admit, because you cannot cover a religion in half an hour.
Very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
We agreed with the two presenters that we switch directly to the next presentation and then we open up. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. So I would
No.
need